I will let you know when I am good enough.
Face does not help training. Face does not help training. I think he's calling me ugly. Shenanigans, back again, and welcome to MMOMG. This month, I'm checking out Asta Online. Yes, the game that was published by Webzen and died just 7 months later last October. It's back through Steam and under new management, that of Korean studio Move Games. The Steam version of the game seems to pick up right where the NA version left off in October, with a level cap of 50. It's important to note that the original Korean version of the game received an expansion, introducing a new race and a level cap increased to 55. When and if that's planned for the resurrected game is unclear. Heck, I haven't even been able to verify that Polygon Games is still the developer. Their site's last update was seemingly in 2010, but the new Steam page lists them as the developer, so take that for what you will. Management aside for a moment, let's talk about the game itself. Asta is a class-based, two-faction theme park MMO. Yes, that's the formula for World of Warcraft, as well as a number of MMOs that appeared immediately after. But Asta's not bothered by that in the least. In fact, Asta was originally touted as the Asian equivalent to WoW, boldly embracing any similarities. That said, I feel Asta perhaps has a little more in common with Warhammer Online, but I'll get to that in a bit. Asta's two playable factions are the Asu and the Aura. The Asu is composed of humans, which can be any class, Draconians, which can only be male warriors, and Tigerians, which may be rogues or archers. The Aura also contain humans, which are likewise unrestricted, Doka, which can only be male and may only be rogues or warriors, and the Yayo, which can be mages or healers. Your faction choice is largely irrelevant unless playing alongside friends, or if you strongly prefer a particular race. Asta has 5 classes: Archer, Healer, Mage, Rogue, and Warrior, all of which function just about how you might expect them to. Archers provide range DPS and knockbacks, and can also stealth. Healers provide buffs and, of course, healing. You can spec into DPS, though I've heard it's not that great. Mages dish out magic damage, and are the only class to have different visuals depending on your faction. Asu features fire and lightning, while Aura uses darkness and ice, but the spells are mechanically identical. Rogues bring melee DPS through use of daggers and poisons, while also having stealth. Warriors can either tank, commonly using sword and shield, or go DPS using a two-handed weapon. If you've played any fantasy MMOs within the last 10 years, you're all too familiar with the class selection presented here. The classes offer nothing new. In fact, you might even call classes a step backwards in terms of innovation. Each class has only 2 talent trees, which is one less than the norm for titles with a similar system. On the bright side, you're probably already familiar with how to play every class, and making choices for distributing talent points is easier than ever before. In its current state on Steam, many players agree that Asta has issues with class imbalance. Mages are widely held as the most powerful class overall, with archers as probably a strong second. This is important more so for PvP than PvE, but you're going to experience both once you get far enough into the game. The last few world zones in Asta are shared between both factions, with PvP in full effect. Like most open-world PvP games, though, this reinforces the need for players to work together and form guilds, which overall seems like a good thing. I haven't personally gotten to those zones yet, but I have seen the occasional rage in chat by a lone wolf player getting repeatedly ganked. Speaking of chat, this game has only been up for a few weeks and its chat is already flooded with gold spammers. Thankfully, you can easily block them with a simple right-click. I'm just hoping there's a generous limit in place, as I rack up probably 3 new spammers a day. Gold sellers, however, aren't the only thing affecting Asta's relaunch, though. The game's login server has had several abrupt and unannounced maintenance periods lasting a number of hours each. Asta has so far apologized for any inconveniences and even given some in-game goodies to make up for it. This is fine for current players, but I imagine that these unscheduled outages so early in the game's launch on Steam can't be good for players trying to log in for the first time. That said, rocky starts and connection or server issues are fairly common for online games, which usually get ironed out after a few weeks. The questing experience is the standard kill, collect, fetch, and escort missions presented in the tried-and-true NPC hubs and quest log. The game still has the same poor localization it used to, with NPC dialogue ranging from adequate to hilarious to almost incoherent. Speaking of quests, I purposely upscaled the UI to make it easier for both myself and my Twitch viewers to see. Doing so has made it difficult for me to scroll to the bottom of the quest tracker, as it seems the true bottom of the tracker now actually goes off the screen. I'm not certain if it's better to reset the UI to fix the quest tracker, or leave it so text is easier to read overall. There's another element to questing, which of course is the public quest system. It functions exactly like how it used to in Warhammer Online, with a multi-stage set of encounters that typically end with a large boss fight. All players participating in a public quest are ranked at its completion, with rewards given based on that rank. While I really like the idea of public quests, they have their flaws. You'll have a hard time earning the top ranks and consequently receiving tie tokens if a higher level player has decided to farm the public quest area you're currently at. On the flip side, public quests can sometimes be a nightmare to finish if there's no one else participating. I saw that firsthand in both Warhammer Online as well as the final days of Asta back when it was published by Webzen. You can get a pretty good idea of how active a server is just based on how often public quests actually get completed. As for personal progress, I really liked the look of Draconians and figured it might be worth having a tank to get into instances, so I sided with the Asu as a Draconian warrior. I made it to level 29 in about as many hours, and by level 25 unlocked my secondary spec using Soulstones. I've done several 3-player dungeons and have participated in over a dozen battlegrounds so far, but I'll cover those topics in a later episode, as well as crafting, sub-professions, divine spirits, stat enhancement, and more. Join me in-game or watch live, Sundays through Wednesdays, starting 8 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/shenanigans1930. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, and follow me on Twitter to get updates on everything I post. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys. Oh, there's the Lord of Wood. Born at the old memorial. Press F to pay respects. We literally just did.